Good morning on a very, very warm day here in the UK. So I may well keep this fairly succinct, too short, but fairly succinct before we all melt and need to go and hide away in a darkened room. But welcome, my name is Helen Jennings. I'm a Stampin' Up demonstrator based here, as I've said, in very, very warm UK. So we are expecting sort of fairly high temperatures. We have heat wave warnings for us here, for what we're used to anyway, here in the UK over the next few days. So it is a little bit warm already. At this early stage of the morning, but do come on and say hello if you are joining us as we do a little bit of crafting and have a little bit of a play with another celebration product. But before we do that, let me just, if you are new and haven't been here before, it is very warm, Sophie. If you haven't been here before, let me just introduce myself. So, Sorry, I'm just looking for my there we go. This is me. This is my website, www.loveaduckie.co.uk, and that is where you are going to find everything about me. You'll find my links to my shops, links to classes, all of those sorts of things over on my website. So do go and check it out. Over on there, you will find things like classes, and we have got some classes coming up, some stamp stacks. Got a crafternoon tea this Saturday. Got a Christmas in July coming up in a few weeks. I'm actually doing, so we've got an evening stamp stack here, as well as a daytime stamp stack. We've got a memory project class going on hopefully this week, and we have got a stamp camp coming up, so you can find details of all of those things. And if you want any more information on any of those, so you'll find them on my website, but do also message me and ask anything that you're unsure of, and it would be lovely to have you with us. And getting the most from Sale-a-Bration. It is Sale-a-Bration, and from now, got a fly buzzing around my ear, from now until the end of August, it is Sale-a-Bration, which means that if you shop with me, if you host, in inverted commas, an event, do anything that's going to generate the benchmark number of sales, you can get a free gift. You get free gifts if you shop with me, and a free gift if you join the family. So lots going on during Sale-a-Bration. And this morning I am going to be sharing another Sale-a-Bration set of products actually with you, a little bundle of products. So without too much further ado, let me bring in this downward facing camera. Let me just move my mouse out of the way. And what I'm going to be sharing with you today is this Wonderful World stamp set and Wonderful World papers. They are just breathtakingly beautiful. They are really, really gorgeous, and we're going to have a bit of a play with those this morning. I don't think it takes too much to be able to create a really gorgeous card with these, because the papers themselves, you can just take a pack of paper and produce lots and lots of beautiful cards without ever having to touch the stamp set. But the stamp set is stunning, so why wouldn't you want to touch it? So let's have a quick look at the stamp set first. Let me just take this case out, and as is often the case on our lives, this has not yet been touched. We have yet to play with it. So here is the stamp set, and you can see these beautiful flowers on here, the cornflowers and roses, irises, just stunning, gorgeous images, gorgeous they're gorgeous stamps. The designer of these stamps has just done a fabulous job. They are just beautiful. So this is a free with a £90 order, but you do get this stamp set, and in addition you get the papers. Let me just bring in these papers. They are just absolutely stunningly beautiful. They're just like, I don't know, stunning wallpapers or fabrics. This one, I mean, you can see that you could happily, if you are a fussy cutter, sit and fussy cut round all of those flowers and have lots and lots of cards ready to go just by adding these big floral images along with some of the background papers. And we'll flip these papers over in a minute and see the reverse. There's sort of pinks and those roses, just beautiful. Here's a rich raspberry background with all these beautiful floral images on the top. And then we have a white background with smaller floral images, and they're just beautiful. So I've got a pack of paper about to slide off in the background. Let's tuck that elsewhere so we don't get an almighty crash. Let's flip these over and you get some really nice sort of backgrounds. There's a nice yellow stripe there. There's a really lovely green foliage background. This one's more orchid oasis, sort of highland heather, sort of really pale lilac-y sort of colour with those leaves on. You've got this nice rich raspberry diamond type pattern. This one with the small, really tiny sort of floral all over pattern, and some nice little pink. Those are like little diamonds. So great sort of background papers, just mix and match with these beautiful florals. You know, you can start putting those together and creating some fabulous cards. So let's have a go at nice and easily putting some of these things together and hopefully creating some fabulous cards. Let's go. Let's see what we can do. Right, now the first thing that I did a little while ago is I've taken one of these papers. So the paper, let's find it. This paper here, and I've cut them into sort of 4 centimetre squares. So I cut a couple of strips, and you know, you might have to wiggle to make your 4 centimetres. Where's the best place to cut them? But I cut them into 4 centimetres squares. So I cut them into strips and then have trimmed them down into 4 centimetre squares. And you can see some of these here. These are the little odd bits on the end. Obviously, you know, you can use those bits as the tiny bits on something else, or little flashes of colour if you use the back. So I have taken those and I'll bring this over. I've got 9 of them here. So these are just simply squares of that designer series paper. That is all. Now I could have perhaps had a look and see if I could have found a small stitched square die that would have done that for me. But we're just going really quick, sort of relatively easy, simple card. So just simply 4 centimetre squares. Let me have a look around me and find a piece of basic white, thick basic white cardstock, because this mat I've got in the background here is 14.4 centimeters, because I'm going to create a square card, the biggest size square that we can get out of a piece of A4, which is, you know, we're using A4 here, is 14.9 that way, scored at just under 14.9 that way. So not quite a 6-inch card, but very nearly. It's about 5 7/8 square. Now, if you are using, yeah, absolutely, Claire, beautiful and for free. You can only get it as a money can't buy offer. The only way you can get it is if you put in an order for lots of other goodies that you love for £90. And if you are busy shopping for your Christmas goodies that you want out of the new mini catalogue, I'm sure that that isn't difficult to do. Pick a particular sweet or something, and you're well on your way. So here we have a square card. Now, if you are in letter size cardstock land, you're not going to be able to make a card quite this big. It is going to be The biggest you'll be able to do on a square is a 5.5-inch square, because your letter size cardstock is 11 inches long. So you'd have to cut it at 5.5 inches. So you would then need to perhaps make your piece of paper a little bit smaller. I have cut this background piece here at 14.4. If you were in the US, you perhaps have to do it at 5.25, but I think you'd still manage to get those squares on. You just wouldn't have as much background paper. You'd have a slightly less background paper showing on that size card. You might have some ready-made 6-inch square cards, or you might want to use a piece of 12 by 12 and cut it at 6 inches and create a 6-inch square. But there we are at a 14.9 centimetre square. You can see how easily we're going to be able to stick those on there and create a really quite beautiful little card. Very, very simply, but it is going to want a greeting on it. So I had a look about, because I'm thinking I don't want anything, not anything massive, I don't think, on there, do we? We don't want a big greeting. We want something that's going to sit relatively nicely. And I picked out the Sending Dies and the Sending Smiles stamp set. So this is from the annual catalogue. So we could have done a big sending, but I'm not going to do a big sending. I'm just going to come in with the little birthday wishes. Where are you, birthday wishes? And we will then die cut that from this little, with this little die just here. And that will sit quite nicely then on there, I hope. Now, what colour to do our stamping? A little piece of basic white just here. I think I'm going to go, so the colours in the paper, I find my paper pack, are Daffodil Delight, Flirty Flamingo, so that's this sort of pink, Melon Mambo, this will be this darker pink, some Mossy Meadow, where we've got the dark green, some Orchid Oasis, we have got some Pear Pizzazz for our paler green, some Rich Raspberry, some Sahara Sand, and some Starry Sky. I think I'm going to go Starry Sky, that darker blue. Reach and flex that. And let's get ourselves a block. Hi, Glenda. We are playing with Wonderful World. Don't know how your weather is doing out in Oz. We are melting here. The temperatures are set to be very high for us. I'm sure, relatively speaking, elsewhere in the world, they're not. But our humidity tends to be high, which makes high temperatures a little bit more difficult to deal with. I have taken myself off camera. If you can see me now, I have a wet tea towel wrapped around my neck just to try and keep my temperature down while I do this. I'm a big advocate of wet flannels and wet tea towels to help with these temperatures. Let's bring in our mini Stampin' Cut and Emboss. Plate 1 and 2 plate 2s. And does a little bit of low tack tape. Anybody else have tape stuck to the handles of their die cutting machines? Because we don't want to waste it. good for another go. Sweet chunk. That out the way for a moment. Let's pop that out of there. Put our tape on the back of our, back on the handle. I'll just tuck that away. So there we have a little birthday wishes. Sorry, jiggling you around. Now, we'll just do ourselves a little double bow. So I folded that in half, that bit just there. So this is the in colour baker's twine, and you get a spool in each colour of the new in colour. So this one is the Starry Sky one. Right, let us start sticking this together. Snip that and snip that. Let's add that to one side for a minute while we stick these pieces in place. Oh, wet tea towels in the freezer. Good plan. So then frozen tea towels. They are very effective, actually. I do tend to go to bed with a wet flannel on my head. That does just about help me get to sleep. It's quite effective last night. Let's hope it continues to be. And we spent yesterday helping my daughter and her young family to move house. She really wasn't very well, bless her, but we got there. So I think we'd have probably slept anywhere last night. It was slightly cooler yesterday, and it's going to be today, thank goodness. Here we go, sticking these in place. Just so pretty. You could really vintage, this is quite bright and bold, you could really vintage these up. You could add some something like some soft suede ink blending around the edges, sort of make them very sort of vintagey and more like Diary of an Edwardian Lady type. If you were to take some of these images and scrunch them up, ink them, curl edges. There we are. Let's stick this. Look at this beautiful paper. Almost, you know, you don't want to be sticking, you don't want to be choosing one side from the other, do you, with this paper? I want that side, but I want that side too. But that side wouldn't have worked with these papers, with these squares. That would have been far too busy. Right, let's find ourselves a little blue dot. And we will stick our little bow to the back of our greeting. Then we will add that on there. My fingers are sticking out with some mini dimensionals, I think. Rustle, rustle, rustle. I need a new sheet of mini dimensionals. Out you come. One at end. Oh, it smells like somebody's got a bonfire or something. I don't know. I hope it's a bonfire, not something caught light in this heat. Luckily, I haven't got any washing out. It's not particularly helpful having bonfires at this time of the day. A little bit antisocial. As I'm sure lots of people have got washing out. Image and find something blingy to stick on there. Rummaging through my pot of bling. Some of my bling has gone, is on my other desk. Don't think flowers are quite right. Needs to be something a little bit more. Let me go for a few brass butterflies. Let's have a little brass butterfly on the end of our sentiment just there. Let's have another one just there. And once more with feeling, we'll have one up here. There we are, a few little brass butterflies fluttering. Hi, Hilary. So there we go. That is just literally taking that sheet of DSP, cutting them into 4 centimetre squares. Now 4 centimetres, you could probably make them slightly smaller, adapt them as to what works for you. But let's have a look. 4 centimetres would be around about, let's see if we can do a bit of a conversion, would be probably, you want them about 1.5 inches-ish squares. If you are using imperial measurements, imperial cardstock, but that's just a sheet of DSP cut up into squares, and some more of the DSP used in the background, just really pretty. So that's one card. Now for my other card, I have actually cut some more of the DSP. Let's cut ourselves a Orchid Oasis card base. And let's go this way because, frankly, we can. No other reason other than that. So if you prefer to cut it the other way, absolutely fill your boots, go on and do it that way. I'm just doing it this way because just tuck that card up for a second. Let's bring this in. Still haven't changed my blade in my trimmer. Right, so I've cut here a piece of 14.4 by 10 of this one particular background paper. And then we've got this background paper here. Just stunning, isn't it? And that is 13.4 by 9. So I cut it a whole centimetre shorter on each side and the paper behind it, just because I wanted this paper here to peek out. You could gut the inside of that piece of DSP if you didn't want to waste that. Let me show you how you would go about doing that. If you've never gutted a piece of paper before, now we know that we've got a at least a 1 centimetre margin on here. I'm going to take it in 2 centimetres. So I'm going to got my 2 centimetre mark here. Bring my paper over to 2 centimetres here. And we know that it's 14.4. So if we take 14.4 off of, and take away 2, that makes it 12.4. So if I put this trimmer blade here, where my little line is, you can see that on the trimmer blade. If I put that up to about 12.4, cut up to where it says 2 centimetres, I have got my metric trimmer in here. This is about 3/4 of an inchish. So this way we're going to go from 2 to 8. From 2 down to about 12.4. And then from 2 down to 8 centimetres. And that should pop out that centerpiece there. So then I've got that piece of DSP to use on another project. It is flowers to cut out on the other side, so it's doubtful that that side would be useful with this particular pattern. You'd be very lucky to have caught that slap bang on point. But then we can add this on the top there, and nobody would ever know that there is a hole underneath. I'm sure many experienced crafters will be experts at gutting, but if you've never gutted a piece of card or a piece of paper, that's the way to do it. You can do it with a knife and a ruler if you don't have a trimmer like mine that will start and stop in the middle of a piece of paper. But if you don't have a trimmer that starts and stops in a piece of paper, middle of a piece of paper, I would highly recommend one because they are useful for so many fancy folds and things as well. Okay, now we are going to do some stamping this time. So let us find our stamps. I'm going to take this big image just here. Let's add our sticker to the back. Now this stamp set doesn't have any sentiments in it, so you are going to have to go and hunt elsewhere for your sentiments, but I'm sure, like me, you have lots. Let's just pull that off there, and there you can see that gorgeous image. And we are going to bring in the stamp apparatus. Now this stamp set sort of stamps all this shading and all those sorts of things as it stamps anyway. So it isn't a stamp that you necessarily colour in let's say, although you could stamp it in a very, very pale colour and then colour over the top of it. I'm going to pop that piece of basic white in there. To hold that down with my magnet. Now we've got it so that it is, we know that it's in that corner. Can use some tape and things to mark the corner where you've lined your card up to, just so that you know that if you do have to go back in and it is moved slightly, you know where your starting point was. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some stamping white markers and I'm going to colour direct to stamp. Let me bring in that starry sky and rest that just there. So I've got my stamping white markers here. You're not going to be able to do this with stamping blends. Stamping blends are an alcohol-based marker. They evaporate really quickly. So if you try and do this sort of a technique with an alcohol-based marker, all you will really succeed in doing is beautifully colouring in your stamp. It's not going to hurt your stamp, but you're not going to get the same effect. The stamping white markers use the same ink as we have in our ink pads. So they are a water-based ink, and they do allow you to do things like this, colouring direct to stamp. Now, it is, as I said, very warm today. So I'm not going to attempt to colour big areas, because when you're doing it on the Stamparatus, if you were doing this technique with a block, you would very definitely huff on it. It's not quite so easy to huff when you're on your Stamparatus. So we're just going to make sure that we do smaller areas. And the nice thing is that you can go back in and add in more colour. If you feel it needs to be a bit darker or you've missed a bit, what I might do actually is come in with Starry Sky and just almost catch the tips just here, perhaps a little bit where I can see these flowers just here, just to give that a sort of slightly darker bits. Let's come in with this other flower just here. And we're just going to colour over the top with our brush end. Sort of, you don't want to colour with the tip of your brush either, sort of bring it so that it's the side of your brush that you're colouring with, the side of your brush end, otherwise you'll spoil your tip of your marker. And let's bring that one in. And again, I think we'll come on over the top. This is really lovely. You can do some really nice sort of shading effects. So with those roses, you could have sort of yellow tips to your roses, and you can really have fun with a colouring direct to stamp technique. Let's come in again on these tips a little bit around the edge here. Adding a bit of shading. Right, now walk over. As I wrestle around in my box of markers, I've got Pear Pizzazz and I've got Mossy Meadow. Let's come in with Pear Pizzazz. Beautiful. Just going to bring my, oh, wrong end, mossy meadow. Just going to come in just along the side of those leaves, a little bit on the top here. It's just brought in a bit of sort of variation on the colour on these leaves. Let's pop those to one side. And bring that up so that hopefully you can see we've got that slightly darker tips and that little bit of shading on the edges. So not, you know, too horrendously difficult. The stamp itself has done a lot of the work because we've got these paler areas just here naturally in this stamp. Just gorgeous. I think we need a bit of a shape of some sort to cut that out. What do we want? Do we think a stitched rectangle? We could come in with a stitched circle and take that top bit. Not going to quite get a stitched square in that way. Then we could have a stitched square, but I think that truncates it a little bit too much. I think we'll go stitched rectangle. I'm just going to run this through my big machine actually, rather than trimming it down to get through the small. So I'm just going to cut that with a stitched rectangle. Ease that out of there. Now, I'm just wondering. No, I think we'll leave it there. And then again, we want a sentiment for that. The set I did grab out here is the Celebrating You. You could have a Just For You. Just For You is a really good generic sentiment, isn't it? Because and I quite like the way that is. Two different fonts. And let's come in with Just For You, cue for a song. Well, it is a cue for a song if you're a bit of a, if you did quite a bit of your sort of teenage years in the 80s. I think we will on both ends a little bit of a banner. We have a little bit of metallic sparkly. This is the Orchid Oasis ribbon. That would look quite pretty, wouldn't it? What I'm looking for. Let's have some of the Inkler Ooby-Doobies, matte decorative dots. Okay, let's build. Now let's have our frame. And our floral patterned paper is going to cover the fact that we've got a hole in there. I'm going to take that on a bit of an angle. I'm going to take it so that that corner, top corner there, reaches this side of the paper. This corner here reaches this side of the paper. And I think we'll layer this layer up. Dimensionals on the back of there. A quick circle for the top. I have got a fan, but it tends to interfere with the Wi-Fi. Which is not what we need. Let's bring in some decorative dots again. Not decorative dots, glue dots. Glue dots stuck to the box. I'm going to put a glue dot on the top of my bow so that I can attach it underneath my sentiment strip. Grab my mini dimensionals again to go underneath here. And we'll have one this end just here. And let's line that up just there. Need to just trim this a little bit. And then let's bring in some of these gorgeous little dots. And they are an ombre effect dot. So we go from dark to light. We have two there together and one on the bottom. We've got our 3. They're really pretty. So we are going to need to put an insert inside here. So you could either use some of your paper to decorate that, or you could do a bit more stamping. You've got your stamping rafters out. Right, I'm just looking for my ornaments of white. I was going to actually do an insert one. There it is. Have I got a big enough ornament of white in there? Yep. I'm going to cut this to 9.5 by 13.9. I'm sure if you make cards regularly, you'll have your preferred option for cutting your inserts. I'm just going to take looking through my paper, should somewhere. And some pieces. I have a piece of this paper. I think I'm going to come. Let's come 1.5 centimeters, I think, down here, and then we'll cut it to 13.9. We'll have that as a bit of a stripe, and then I think we'll have cut it to 13.9. Let's have both of those papers down the side there, reflecting the paper that we've got on the front. And let's bring in this one. Stuck to my finger. Let's stick that on the inside. And there we are. Just got those pretty papers reflecting the papers from the front. Now let's bring in our other card. So it just is a stunning collection. So that's the Wonderful World stamp set. Let me just bring in you the front cover of the stamp set, and those stunning, stunning papers. Just so beautiful. These sort of backgrounds and big floral images. it just mean you're just going to make lots and lots of really gorgeous cards, because it's almost cut and go, but you've got the option of that gorgeous stamp set to bring in as well. Just delightful. So it is a wonderful bundle, and certainly worth bearing in mind as you make up your shopping list from your new Christmas July to August mini catalogue. Let's come back up. As you can see, I'm now very wet. Well, I've had a tea towel around my neck. I did take it off, but I'm still very wet. But that is tea towel. I'm not completely dissolving. So have a wonderful week. Do keep well and keep safe in these temperatures. And wherever you are in the world, have a fabulous week. And we will be back on Friday. So take care, everybody, and see you very soon.